from the studios of Ave Maria Radio in Ann Arbor, this is Veterans Radio. And now, here's your host, Gary Lilly.
Good morning, America, and welcome to Veterans Radio. Good morning to all my veteran brothers and sisters. There's a lot of countries out there that have their freedom thanks to you. And a special good morning to all of our military troops that are on active duty right now, whether in country or in this country. And really a special good morning to our listeners down in Tasmania, Australia, and New Zealand.
Okay, mate.
We're
going to put something on the Barbie, eh?
And that's our
Foster's.
boss.
Have a Foster's.
I'm Gary Lilly, CV, Chu Lai, Vietnam, 1966. And our air boss today is that old paratrooper, Bob Gould, 101st Airborne.
Left, your left, right.
Airborne.
Your left, right.
Airborne.
1, 2,
3, 4.
3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. You left, you right, you're airborne.
That's right. Hooah.
What was that?
It was airborne, man. 101.
101. Hey, Bob, we got a show this morning that I've had a lot of guests on that have just really been, I've looked forward to the shows so much. I've been excited to do them. I'm nervous about today's show later on coming up called Shakey's Hill. I want it to come off right, and I'm so worried that I've been awake since 10 after 5 this morning, worried that the story will come out. It so
does
powerful.
do that to you, doesn't it?
It does.
We kind of get the, what do they call it, pre-event jitters.
The guys that...
That's because you want to do good.
I want to do well.
Absolutely.
Yes. And there's two of the guys who are out there that we're going to be interviewing in California, and they're saying, wow, we got to get up at 5:30 this morning. Well, guys, I've been up since 10 after. I guess it's sympathy awakeness. I don't know what you'd call it. But first, we've got a guest on, really a great website called, it's www.grunt.com, www.grunt.com, G-U-R-N-T. And it's known as Sergeant Grit. Sergeant Grit is Don Whitten. And Don, or Sergeant Grit, welcome to Veterans Radio.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Oh, hey, your website is legendary. I take it you were in the Marines?
Yes, 6871.
It's hard to tell by going to the website now. Oh, you were in Da Nang, weren't you?
Yes, or near Da Nang, yes.
Near Da Nang. That means that you were probably out in the Indian country, were you?
Well, Da Nang was a big place. Indian country relative, but near Freedom Hill, down the road from Freedom Hill,
okay.
And then Dilau Pass and that kind of thing.
That's a lot of familiar names down there.
Yeah.
I want everybody to write down this website so they can go to it. www.grunt.com. Your website is amazing. All Marine, all the time, memorabilia, bumper stickers, T-shirts, plus Marine news. What else can be found there?
Well, of course, you can order off the web page, and that's what keeps it all going. But have a bulletin board that's quite active. Have a general Marine forum and several different Marine forums, and then have a girlfriend and wife and a mother's forum where they can chit chat on that. Have a real popular page called the BS page where you can send in a story and a picture, and we'll post your story and your picture. Have a chat room, have a large link to other Marine Corps websites, and two other things that I really like and I think are really helpful to people. And that's what's nice about this, nice about my job and my company, is I have two areas. One is called Help Marines, and most of that has to do with wounded Marines. And there's a lot of people out there helping wounded Marines. And then another site or location on the page for helping deployed Marines. So you can send. There's a lot of people sending packages and letters and all kind of support for deployed Marines. And there's some other services in there too. On those pages, it's not all Marine Corps, although we lean that direction, obviously, since it's a Marine Corps page. And then one other thing that we do that we archive on the web page, but I send out a weekly newsletter. People send me stories and pictures, and I put it in a newsletter format, and I send this out every Wednesday evening. And that's real popular, and the stories are just great. people's remembrances, their jokes, people they served with that they have a special memory of, an officer or an NCO that took them under their wing and helped them out at a difficult time. Just all kind of stories. It's a great outreach.
Well, you and I exchanged emails. I told you about my story about the Marines that patrolled around us when we were building the Chulai airstrip. I was working 6 at night to 6 in the morning, and we were told they're welcome to come in for hot chow at midnight, but let them to the end of the head of the line so they don't ruin their night vision.
Yeah.
And I happened to be up at the head the first night they came in, and I stepped back and they stepped in front of me. I said to one of the Marines, "Man, how can you guys wander around out in the dark like that?" And he said, "How can you guys work under the lights like this?"
Yeah, exactly.
And so to all Marines out there, thank you so much for the cover that you gave us. How did you get started?
It was almost an accident. I had always had an interest in doing mail order. You see these little ads in the back of magazines, and for whatever reason, I'd always had an interest in placing an ad in the back of a magazine and seeing what happened. Well, I placed an ad with one T-shirt in the back of Vietnam magazine back in late '88 or early '89. Didn't sell anything, sold like 5 shirts maybe. But I was too stupid to quit, so I kept placing ads, and one thing led to another, and now you've got the website and the catalog, the 140-page catalog, and the whole thing. It's a hobby that got out of hand, is what happened.
I was telling a friend of mine, Tom Filecki, former sniper, that you were going to be on the show. Oh, I met him. I met him at a reunion, I believe it was. You know.
Yeah.
You are legendary amongst the Marines. Hey, I don't know. Are you familiar with the Marine Scholars Fund, which is one of our sponsors for this show?
Yes. Well, they're one of the links I have on the Help Marines page. Yeah.
All right. Great. What's your most popular items on the Oh, you know what? We've only got about a half a minute left. Let me ask you this. You have an Adopt a Marine kit.
That's been real popular this year. Since 9/11, you can't send a package or a letter to just any Marine or any service person. So in our unique position, we can hook up with units and chaplains in the units or gunnery sergeants or first sergeants. We will have a contact that we can send packages to. So we put together a series of packages that people can buy from us, and we'll get them to a Marine in Iraq or Afghanistan.
And they can do that on the air, or on the Internet, by credit card?
Yes, sir, on the webpage, yes.
Amazingly, we have run out of time. Don Witt and Sergeant Grit, www.grunt.com. Thanks for being on Veterans Radio.
Well, thanks for having me. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Well, are we ready for welcome home?
I'm sorry, I was waiting for you. That was my job. Bob,
That's right.
Do we have any welcome home?
That's right. We've been doing this how many shows?
Oh, Lord. I told you, I am nervous about today's show.
This is 2008. Hey,
Yes.
by the way, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, and Happy
to
New
another
Year.
12 months of putting Veterans Radio on the air. Welcome home. Each week on Veterans Radio, we welcome home servicemen and women who have been stationed around the world in the service of their country. Dateline, Orlando, Florida. Soldiers from D Company, 2nd Battalion, 124th Infantry Regiment returned home after a year-long tour in Iraq. Dateline, Lansing, Michigan. Following a 14-month tour of duty, 140 Michigan Army National Guard soldiers from the 147th Multifunctional Medical Battalion and the 1171 Area Support Medical Company based in Ypsilanti, Michigan, that's just right down the street, returned home from Iraq. Dateline, Oshkosh, Bigosh, Wisconsin. Soldiers from the Wisconsin Army National Guard's 1157 Transportation Company completed a 1-year mission in Iraq. Dateline, Utah. We actually have Utah. You know, that's way up there, huh? By the Canadian border. That's beautiful, beautiful up there. Soldiers from the Utah National Guard's 115th Engineer Battalion are returning home after serving in Iraq. Dateline, Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Hoo-wah! 450 soldiers from the 101st Airborne Division, hoo-wah, returned home Friday from Iraq.
Cambodia, 1970. President Nixon sends American troops into Cambodia to seek out and destroy North Vietnam Army caches. The fighting was fierce as the North Vietnamese defended their supplies. Just 2 weeks into Vietnam, working as a freelance film journalist, 26-year-old Norman Lloyd, an Australian, joined 1 Battalion as an embedded journalist. 37 years later, he decided that he had to put together the film that he took and the stories that he covered and create a DVD, a documentary about those experiences. It's called Shakey's Hill, and we're very, very pleased to have Norman Lloyd on this morning. Norman, welcome to Veterans Radio.
Thank you. Good morning.
I know it's awfully early out for you out there in California. I appreciate your getting up to be with us.
Not a problem.
Norman, I've watched Shakey's Hill, which is part of a bigger DVD called Commitment and Sacrifice. Is that what it is?
That's right.
I ought to remember because I've bought 23 or 24 copies that I've given out so far. I watched that. I watched the Shakey's Hill portion of it first, and I was never so taken as I was with that DVD. The footage is just incredible. You got into the jungle there with the troops, and I thought, my gosh, he could hold on to the guy's shirt tails as they're in combat. And I said to you in a conversation we had the other day that the only way you could have gotten closer is if you were standing in front of them and they were shooting over your shoulder. Tell us what you told me.
Well, pardon me. This was the third time that I'd been in combat, and I had the experience in a previous firefight of being right up about a third man behind the point and walking into an ambush, and I learned from that experience that it's better to get behind the soldiers because at that point I couldn't even shoot any film because there was so much going on. I had to hug the ground. But when I flew in on an emergency medevac and joined up with Bravo Company, 5th or 7th Cavalry, and at that point I'd learned that you stay behind the soldiers, not get in front of them.
That's probably a good idea when you're only armed with a camera, and indeed they were shooting over the top of you. You told me. The footage is remarkable. I don't believe I've ever seen footage like this. But what you did was you thought so much about how the American soldier was being portrayed, and like a lot of us resented it, if I remember correctly, and decided that you wanted to get them all together, the ones that were still alive, have a reunion, and then compare the on-air footage of 1970 and the interviews of 1970 by interviewing them today. Can you tell us a bit about your DVD? And I'm going to shut up and tell us how it came to be known as Shakey's Hill.
Yes, well, when I went in with Bravo Company, as I say, it was early on in my career, and I'd had no military training. So I was in the hands of the soldiers, the troops, who I had a huge amount of respect for. I've always had a tremendous amount of respect for American military back to the days when they saved Australia during the Second World War. So to me it was an honor to be there, and I wanted to shoot combat in very close to show people what it's like for the soldier that I'm today even amazed at their ability to just run into that fire. But so I was with them, and the bond that you gain so quickly when you're on the ground where it's so dangerous, where you're watching these men putting their lives on the line all the time, and taking casualties, and the things that they're going through, just totally, they have a total effect on you that you never forget. But they fought their way day after day. These men were in combat day after day as they fought their way towards this objective that they or what they thought was, nobody really knew it was there at the time, but the fighting just became more and more intense as they continued further up the hill. And one of the soldiers, Chris Keflos, whose nickname was Shakey, he was shot by a sniper. He discovered the first cache of weapons on the final push, and he was shot and killed. And so the men at that point decided, the men of First Platoon decided, and I'm sure the whole company decided to call it Shakey's Hill after that, and they made a sign and put it on top of the hill after they took the hill.
Your documentary shows amazingly interviews with Chris Keflos, Shakey. Shows some footage. There's a scene where all of these young men with about 2 days or 2 weeks growth of beard and covered with dirt are sitting on the ground as a chaplain is saying prayers. Is it a chaplain or is it the battalion commander? He's saying the Lord's Prayer, and then the looks on their faces as they recited the Lord's Prayer with them was so touching to me. Can you tell me about those scenes? I don't think you took that footage, but you went back into the archives 35 years or 36 years later and found the footage from Shakey's Hill, from those battles, and that you put together in the documentary. Tell us about that scene, if you would, please.
Sure. What used to happen, I used to shoot all the combat, and then when, during the, when there was resupply going on, CBS would send in a correspondent and a crew, and they shot that scene of the church service, or of the praying and the service there, and I knew that existed, and so when and of course I'd thought about making this film for all these years. This experience stayed in my memory so clearly, and I knew that I had film that hadn't gotten on the air back then, and I hoped it was in the archives. And so once I started to get the film together, and then I picked the men that had talked on camera, and the ones that Shakey had been killed, of course, and some of the others, had also been killed previously and later. And but I then started looking for these men who I'd been able to get their names, and I tracked them down and re-interviewed them, and it has an amazing effect.
Oh, it truly does. This is one of the most powerful documentaries I've ever seen, and I'm going to get into this a little bit ahead of that I planned. You have told about the value that it has for men with PTSD, men who have never been able to tell their families what they did. They didn't have to be in Cambodia in this actual fighting, because there was so much of the same thing going on over the 8 years of the war or whatever. What happens when people get this documentary? Troops, grunts that have been in the fighting.
Well, the story is a relevant story for every soldier and every serviceman, because the film is dedicated to all of those who have served this country, and what people what's happening, and this, I didn't expect this to be the case, but this has evolved from the film as I've gone deeper into it. And what happens is, as we all know, as you know, and as I know as an old combat cameraman, there's a lot of things that you don't want to talk about that you've seen, and you don't want to discuss except with your buddy that was with you, or someone that can understand the experience you've had, because nobody can understand what it's like, what a soldier has to go through unless they've been there. And so what I found is that the film, the soldier's family, when they see the film, the wife, the children who are, it just it shows them what their loved one has been through or possibly been through. And the soldier doesn't have to, they no longer, they've always been curious as to what he went through. And he hasn't ever wanted to really tell them what he's been through. And so they now know. They now, it sort of, it closes, it brings them closer together, because they still don't need to talk about it. But now he knows by looking at it that they've seen it, and it forms a bridge of understanding between them.
I had an experience where I was interviewed by U of M students. They wanted to talk to a combat veteran, and I said that I thought I could get one for them. And I talked to a friend, and he would not do the interviews. He was with the 101st Airborne up in Ashaw Valley. Would not do it unless I agreed to do it. Well, finally I had to give in and agree to be part of the interview. Well, his part of the interview was just amazing. And a friend of his next-door neighbor, he was telling him about it, and the guy asked, can I watch it? Because I had the kids give me the raw footage plus their final product. And the friend said, I had no idea what you had done. And this guy watched that video 4 times. Now, this was just a video. Your footage showing these guys dirty, fatigued, 2 weeks growth of beard, and raggedy clothes, and fighting in the jungles. I mean, kind of crouched down and crouching forward and blasting away. You right on their tails. This is footage that I don't think I've ever seen before. You did an amazing job over there, and are to be commended. You brought the soldier story. Tell me about a little bit about this. You said you were with them. You slept on the ground and all that. So you were you were just as dirty and probably scared at times as they were you?
Well, I'm sure that's true. These men kept me alive.
Right.
This is the thing is that I think we formed a bond there that because of the respect I had for them. I went to Vietnam without any point of view on the war. I had total respect for American forces, and I wanted to be with the American soldiers, and to me, I was doing my job. It was not they're the heroes. They're the ones that I have even today. I can't believe the things that they are able to do.
I've always been in awe of the grunt. I truly have. I watched them going out from the fire base that we were building, my squad, and I just was always in awe of the grunt. We've got 2 of them that will be on right after the break, I believe. I might introduce them just before the break. Russell Failing and Bill Little. Bill Little was in the same platoon as Shakey, Chris Keflos. But for the listeners out there, this was not your only experience. I mean, your productions are quality. You were with 60 Minutes for many, many years. You've won a series of awards for your documentaries. Your productions, and you've covered war all over the country. All over the world. So to say that this stayed with you is in itself very impressive. Just tell us a little bit about what you've covered.
Well, I was a combat cameraman, so I was in Vietnam for 4 years, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, and then. At the end of the war, they shipped me off to Lebanon, where the war started there, and then I was in Somalia and down in Nicaragua during that. And I've been in Iraq twice. The last time I was there was in 2005 to be actually with the same battalion and the same company in Iraq, and that's part of the other story, the commitment and sacrifice story. So, a lot of wars, but a lot of other things, revolutions and stuff. I was in Iran. I flew in on the same plane as Khomeini when he came back into Iran.
So you're not a lightweight.
It's been an interesting life.
And you have some people like Ed Bradley as your closest friend, very close friend. On the line with us right now are Russell Failing and Bill Little. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Bill Little, you're in the documentary. You were in the same platoon with Chris. We've got a little over a minute. Tell us what he was like.
Well, Chris was, fun-loving, very young soldier. I think he was probably 18, and everybody just really liked Chris. He got along well with everybody. He always did, his job and helped people out. I don't know, his background or anything. People are coming and going all the time, but everybody really liked Chris. Of course, he got his nickname because he stuttered a lot. Especially if he got nervous, then he really stuttered a lot. And obviously, we got nervous quite often.
Being of sound mind.
He was just a great guy.
And he had a voice like Mel Tillis, I heard you say?
I didn't say that. Somebody did. I don't remember ever hearing him sing, but that I know somebody made that comment.
Okay, we're up on the break right now. You're listening to Veterans Radio. We'll be right back.
The Medal of Honor is the highest award for valor in combat given a member of the Armed Forces of the United States. There have been over 3,400 recipients of the nation's highest award. This is one of them.
Major Oscar Miller, although wounded several times, encouraged his troops to press the attack. Details after this. After 2 days of intense physical and mental strain, during which Miller had led his battalion in the front line of the advance through the forests of Argonne, the enemy was met in a prepared position. Though almost exhausted, he energetically reorganized his battalion and ordered an attack. Upon reaching open ground, the advancing line began to waver in the face of machine gun fire from the front and flanks and direct artillery fire. Personally leading his command group forward between his frontline companies, Miller inspired his men by his personal courage, and they again pressed on toward the hostile position. As he led the renewed attack, he was shot in the right leg, but he nevertheless staggered forward at the head of his command. Soon afterward, he was again shot in the right arm. But he continued the charge, personally cheering his troops on through the heavy machine gun fire. Just before the objective was reached, he received a wound in the abdomen which forced him to the ground. But he continued to urge his men on, telling them to push on to the next ridge and leave him where he lay. He died from his wounds a few days later.
The Medal of Honor series is a production of Veterans Radio.
And we're back with the story of Shakey's Hill. We have Norman Lloyd, combat photographer, Bill Little, and Russell Failing, grunts, the most honorable job description there is. Russell, a lot of people, outsiders who have never been in the military, think that guys that have been in combat are very aggressive, very, I don't know, John Wayne type or whatever, and beyond. In the documentary, you talked about yourself. Tell us the kind of personality you are.
Oh, well, thanks, Gary. During the Vietnam era, and particularly in my case, I was drafted. So I had been a college student, and, with some reluctance, I joined the military, because my country needed me. Today, it's an all-volunteer army, so perhaps, as you stated earlier, the more aggressive type soldier might be more prominent today. But back in our era, back in the late 60s, early 70s, a good share of the infantry soldiers were drafted. So there was, in many cases, kind of a reluctance, if you will, to go to combat. But in my case, I came from a family that had a military background. I knew, as a somewhat patriot, I knew that it was my obligation to the country to serve in the military. So, entering the Army, I was, I guess you could say, kind of a nonviolent person, but at the same time, I recognized that I had a job to do.
And that's a phrase that one of these days I'm going to be able to formulate in my mind how I feel when somebody says I was just doing my job or I had a job to do. When your job involves perhaps getting killed at any moment, that it goes beyond a job. Someday I'm going to be able to figure out how that affects me. But you were in the thick of the fighting. I mean, you guys were assaulting. You weren't defending a position. You were assaulting. And you were assaulting against an enemy that was defending fiercely their positions. As you were going up what came to be known as Shakey's Hill, you told a story about that was kind of humorous, I guess, to people that have been there and hopefully to everybody else. Tell us about that M60 gunner next to you.
Yeah, that was kind of an interesting thing. We've all seen the classic John Wayne type war movies where the guy loads a bunch of ammunition and jumps up and runs forward and assaults this position and eliminates the enemy, and you think, well, this is just movie stuff. People aren't going to be crazy enough to do that sort of thing. Well, I can tell you firsthand that it really does happen, and in our case, it did happen, during that last, perhaps 30 meters, to the top of Shakey's Hill. We were below an enemy position where the North Vietnamese soldier had a clear field of fire and, just had a distinct advantage, over us coming up this slippery hillside. The cover had been removed, the bushes had been trimmed back so, they could see us easily. Well, conversely, as we were approaching the top of this hill, we were kind of pinned down. And not too far away from me, behind the same big log that we were laying behind, was a guy with a machine gun. So I remember, I think the guy's name was Joe Torres, is from New York, and he'd been a gunner for some time in our platoon, and he said, I could hear him clearly over all his gunfire. He said, I've had enough of this stuff. I'm tired of being pinned down behind this log, and so he linked up about 300 rounds to that M60 machine gun, just jumped up and turned the thing on and just basically charged up that last 15, 20, 30 meters of that hillside, never releasing the trigger on that 60 until he reached the foxhole that the NVA soldier was in. And, of course, he eliminated the guy. So I just still am amazed that someone could do that, but nonetheless, under a stressful situation like that, it's amazing what people will do.
Absolutely. Bill, you were in the final assault, or were you wounded prior to that?
No, I wasn't in the final assault. I got wounded in an ambush probably about 3 or 4 days before that final assault took place.
Just so people will know, I mean, this was not a couple of day operation. How long were you guys in Cambodia, Bill?
Well, like I said, I was there a short time. We went around May 5th, and I don't think they finally left there until April. I got hit on May 19th. From the moment we got there, we established contact right after we hit the ground. Not maybe a click from where we landed. We ran into some
1 kilometer, a click.
Yeah.
For those that have not been in the military.
Oh, and it wasn't very far, and we encountered some. I think the 4th platoon did, and killed a couple, and we were talking about resupply, and I was talking to Captain Molyneux, and his RTO was on the radio, and we were doing a resupply thing, and Penny started, he just stopped and just started saying, just stuttering away, and finally yelled, "Gook," and we turned around, and there were 4 guys just walking right at us, had no idea we were even there. And, of course, we were stunned and missed all of them, as usual. Many bullets fired, not many hits. And so, I mean, it started right away, and then it just got worse every day.
What's the feeling after you have a situation like that with all that firing and nobody's touched?
Yeah.
Not like the movies.
It's just amazing. It's just amazing because there's bullets everywhere. It's just like unbelievable that nobody got hit.
Either
Just
side.
Unbelievable. Maybe you should just fire one shot at a time, but, soldiers love that full auto.
I think I'd have burned up a whole lot of ammunition if I'd have been a grunt. When you said you went in May the 19th, was it?
No, that's when I got medevac. We went in early May.
Okay.
I think May 5th, May 6th.
My birthday. You went in for my birthday.
Yeah, it was a huge assault. There were I got some stuff written down in the notebook that I had back then. We went in 40 slicks. We had 15 Cobras escort, plus a big prep. So it was quite an assault. So
that's a lot of. How many men would you have to a helicopter, a slick?
Probably 6, if I remember right. So maybe 8.
240 to 320 guys going in, and there were more came in after that. You guys took a lot of casualties right off the bat. As what happened to you. What were the jungles like there that you went into?
Well, Norman's movie shows you really clearly. They're very thick. I had forgotten some of that until we actually did all this and looked at the footage. That virtually, if you stayed on the trails, it was relatively clear. But if you stayed on the trails, it wasn't long before you got hit. So you had to go through some pretty thick and viney and, wait a minute vines and things like that. So it was very hard to see. And I had forgotten some of that. But you can see in the footage in the film.
Oh, yeah.
You can't see anything but green.
Right. And I don't know how, if you walk up on somebody, they'd have to hear you coming a long time before you got there, because you wouldn't see them till about 10 feet away, would you?
Well, that's right. And the day Captain Molyneux got killed, we actually walked up on, I don't know how big the original group was, but it was a bunker complex. And when we sat in, which we had to make a lot of noise, you would think, when we sat in our perimeter, we could hear them talking. And it was late in the afternoon. Captain Molyneux immediately wanted to go in, and we did go in. So it's amazing as much noise as you make. We had to be pretty quiet in what we did.
But it's hard to keep a couple hundred guys quiet. But the jungle must have muffled a lot of the noise.
I would imagine.
We've got about a minute left. Russell, you were there the entire time. Were you there when you walked out?
Yes.
That footage of walking out was pretty scary all by itself. You had to end up at one point walking down a stream that with deep ravines. You were in a deep ravine and steep sides where you were looking way up. You were pretty much sitting ducks. You got about a half minute left.
Yeah, it was tough terrain. It was very, very hilly in that last area that we were located in. Hilly terrain. It was rainy, wet, slippery. As Bill said earlier, we were breaking bush, as we used to call it, making our own trails. So that made it even worse. So it wasn't like walking down some nice established trail. So it was tough going, but knowing that we were leaving was certainly refreshing.
We'll be right back right after this break. You're listening to Veterans Radio. You're back on Veterans Radio. We're talking to Norman Lloyd, combat photographer, Bill Little and Russell Failing, grunts, and we're talking about the documentary Shakey's Hill. Norman, I almost forgot that you were there. I apologize. Just picturing what these guys were talking about, having seen it in your documentary. How can people buy this documentary, Norman? Are you there? Maybe he's not there.
We have a website, and it is www.shakeyshill.com. And so people can go on there and they can go through the website and they can purchase the DVD there. And I actually have a discount for military and ex-military personnel. So they get a special deal.
Good
which
deal.
they deserve.
And it's Shakey, Shill?
That's correct.
Okay, there is an E in Shakey. Now, I mentioned that I had bought 22, 23 copies. I forget which now. But one of the things that I've done with them, I've given them to everybody here on the Veterans Radio team. I gave them to some friends of mine that were grunts. I also gave out a bunch to school teachers, because a lot of times they'll have the veterans in to talk about their experiences, and kids can't picture it. They see a bunch of old guys standing in front of them, and I always try to tell them, don't look at us as old guys. Look at us as the guy that graduated last year, and he's now in Vietnam. So what I've suggested is that the teachers show this DVD, this documentary, the day before they have the veterans in. And that way these kids will understand who it is that's standing in front of them. I recommend this documentary to anybody who's ever had anybody that served in combat, to anybody who is interested in what it must be like, and to every school teacher. Dale Throneberry said that every American ought to see this documentary. So, Russell, when you got to the top of the hill, what did you find up there?
Immediately at the top, it didn't appear that there was much of anything. It was kind of a flat ridge line, and there was just a huge trail complex on top of it, because obviously there was a road system leading to this place, and obviously if you've got roads and tire tracks, there must be something big there. Well, we found that in ever-increasing layers running down the sides of this ridge were these huge bunkers that had been dug into the ground. They were probably 20 feet deep, 15 feet wide, and you could just about stand up inside of it. I don't recall the count, but I know when we left there and were relieved by, I think it was the 25th Infantry Division, we had already revealed, I think, nearly 100 of these complex rooms or bunkers that had been dug into the side of this hill. So there was a tremendous, amount of material, tons and tons of material. And anybody that has the opportunity to view the video will get kind of a count of how many tons of stuff and number of rounds of ammunition and weapons that were found. It was pretty impressive.
B-40 rockets, anti-aircraft 51 caliber.
Yeah, just rifles. We found thousands of Russian M44 rifles and sniper rifles and AK-47s and SKSs and ammunition of every variety, from small arms up to 120 millimeter mortar rounds. It was pretty amazing.
What was amazing to me is guys just doing their job, quote unquote. Your battalion commander was part of the documentary, and he said the strategy was to find out where the fighting was the fiercest and then go after them there, because there was a reason why the fighting was fierce.
Yep, and there certainly was a reason. There was a lot of munitions, and I hope that all the material that we found, certainly did save some lives later on in that war effort.
I'm sure it had to. It had to. Bill, you were wounded. Did you see it coming?
Oh, for sure, because like I said, every day, the combat just got a little bit more intense, and it wasn't VC that we were engaged with. It was definitely NVA, with helmets and all the gear you could possibly muster.
What kind of soldiers were they?
They were very good and very fierce fighters. They never gave up. I mean, they would fight to the bitter end for sure.
Now, an American soldier would never be able to picture this, but the things that they did when they were not planning an attack or digging bunkers or hunting for food, and they almost stripped the jungles of animals hunting for food, they would sit for about 5 to 8 hours of political indoctrination. And, I don't think an American could ever comprehend doing that. But they would get that every day, and you can imagine how they had been indoctrinated, and why they were such fierce fighters. But there's a difference between the NVA soldier and the VC. Everybody thought that we were fighting guerrillas over there. We were fighting a regular army that was well trained. Is that not right, Bill?
That's right. I mean, these guys had all kinds of support, all kinds of weapons. They were very organized. They knew what they were doing. They were very intent on stopping us from getting up that hill.
Russell, when there was footage in there that showed what happened at one point, you guys had taken casualties. I think the machine gunner had been killed, and maybe that was out of context or out of chronological order. But there was one point where you said that whatever the mission was, you weren't thinking about that. You were out for revenge. And I watched you guys putting on your ammunition and picking up your weapons to move out. You had hard looks in your face, and that's coming from a nonviolent person. You said you were out for revenge. Tell us about some of the feelings that took place then.
Well, as you said, Gary, we took pretty tremendous casualties. I think when we left Cambodia, of the original 100-plus guys that went in early May, there was less than 50 of those same folks that left. So obviously there were a lot of casualties, both, a lot of wounded folks and unfortunately a number of guys were killed. And when you're laying on the ground next to a guy shooting at the enemy and he's trying the best he can to protect himself and you and vice versa, and then you see those people get wounded or killed, it certainly causes one to think differently about what's going on. And the thought of killing another human being kind of goes to the back of your mind. It's self-preservation and getting the mission done and getting it done without inflicting any injuries on yourself. So it does certainly change one's perspective on your morals, if you will, as a civilian versus a combat soldier.
Certainly. There was, who can tell us about that dog that joined you? Bill or Russell, either one of you remember that dog?
Well, I'll speak first. Yeah, certainly. I don't remember exactly the circumstances when we first acquired Lifesaver. We nicknamed this little dog Lifesaver. It was we went into some bunker complex and we're clearing it, and lo and behold, there was this little kind of a mongrel-looking mutt dog that sort of appeared out of nowhere. And of course, us being humans and dogs liking humans, this little dog took up residence with us and traveled with us for a number of weeks. Interestingly enough, we called her Lifesaver because she would walk ahead of the company as we were moving, through the jungle. And whenever she would encounter, any enemy soldiers, she apparently didn't like the NVA just as we didn't like them. So she would quickly run back into our perimeter, and that we took that as a sign that there was something going on, or we were about to encounter something ahead. And sure enough, there was many occasions where Lifesaver tipped us off that there was something about to happen.
She could scent them, and she didn't like the scent, and
yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
she probably knew that she was slated to be dinner at some point.
Well, that could be, or perhaps she liked our sea rations better than their little, sticky rice balls.
It's amazing the little human interest stories that come out at times like that. That the dog certainly was cute. Russell, you what are your final thoughts on this? I guess we're coming up so fast. We've got about a minute left. Tell me your final thoughts on this.
Well, the being that this radio station is dedicated to veterans of all branches of service and the interests of veterans, the one last point I would like to make is that anybody that's been in any kind of a combat situation, whether it be Vietnam, Korea, World War II, Iraq, doesn't matter. Any of you out there that are having any kind of difficulties dealing with things in your life, there's a heck of a lot of people available to help you through this thing. And I consider myself fortunate that I came home with no excess baggage in terms of PTSD, but there's a lot of folks that didn't. And all I can say is, please take advantage of what's available out there to help you get through that stuff.
Well said. Russell Failing, Bill Little, Norman Lloyd, thank you so much. The time has flown. Thank you for being on Veterans Radio. And please thank our sponsors, Marine Scholars Fund, Marine Scholars Fund, Quantum Physical Therapy, Legal Help for Vets, Len Pitlack, CPA, Schrader Yacht Sales, Sperry Van Ness, Lillian Associates, that's me, Pat the Handyman, and thank you for listening to Veterans Radio. Bob, do you have anything? What's coming up next week, do you recall?
Yes, January the 12th, we got B-24, Rhapsody and Junk. January the 19th, War Dogs 2.
All right, I'm looking forward to that. Rhapsody and Junk, that's the lady who tracked down where her father was shot down by in his B-24, and she actually found parts of the wreckage of it in Europe. Talked to people that saw it happen, and talked to one of the Germans that helped capture him. It'll be a fascinating story. Thank you for listening to Veterans Radio. You are dismissed.